So I'm here today to talk about stress because I've been talking about diet hacks, but stress is actually really important thing to consider when it comes to trying to lose fat because stress hormones make it really hard to lose fat if you've got elevated cortisol levels, which you hear a lot about cortisol levels these days if you listen to any type of fitness or health influencer. We need cortisol, it's important. It's one of those hormones that performs some important functions in the body. And in times of intense stress, like in an emergency situation, you need cortisol. It helps mobilize your body to get ready to fight or to run away. So you don't want to be without cortisol. The problem is with chronic stress, where your body's continuously in this fight or flight mode and revved up, everything's escalated. We're not meant to live like that. So it affects all kinds of other things. It creates this cascade effect, and it affects sleep, it affects appetite, it affects other hormones. So really, it's important to get stress under control before trying to take on something like fat loss. Because in order to lose fat, we need to create a calorie deficit. And that calorie deficit is its own form of stress. So we want to get our existing stress under control. Now, we can't get rid of stress completely. Some stress is normal. Some stress is actually healthy for us. We need to be motivated enough to get out of bed in the morning, to get ourselves to work, to get through a workout, to perform whatever our day-to-day life requires us to do. Think about a musician who's going to get up on stage and maybe has butterflies in their stomach and has a little bit of stage fright, but they need that little bit of stress, that little jolt to motivate them and get them to perform. Or an athlete right before a big event. So stress isn't always a bad thing. We need some of it. Again, it's that chronic stress that gets to be a problem. So, a few things when it comes to stress. Some of it has to do with our perception. So, you could have an event happen, the same event, to two different people, and they might handle it very differently. Maybe one person has been through that situation before, handled it fine, they take it in stride, it's no big deal. The other person catastrophizes it, feels like, oh my God, this is the end of the world, what am I gonna do? They don't have the problem solving skills to address it. So who do you think is gonna be more stressed out? Even though it's the exact same stressor. So again, some of it has to do with the resources that a person has to cope with it. So one way to deal with stress isn't to eliminate stress, because we already established that we can't do that, but it's to boost up your coping resources. So whatever that looks like for you. Some people deep breathe, some people have a stress ball. Honestly, the best way to cope with stressful situations is to be exposed to stressful situations and to handle them successfully, and to learn that you're not going to die usually. And then you realize that, hey, I can handle this, and if this happens again, I know what to do. So avoiding stress actually makes stress worse. That's one thing. also, when it comes to stress, an important thing to remember is to control the things that are within your control. And the things that aren't within your control, you have to learn to just let them go, deal with them, cope with them, accept them. And sometimes it takes a little bit of discernment to understand what we can control and what we can't control. Because if you tend to be a little bit of an anxious person or a type A person, you have a tendency to want to control everything because that will keep you safe, right? Or that's the thought. But the reality is, really only thing that anyone control is their own actions, their own thoughts. You can't control other people, even though you see a lot of people who might try to do that. You can't control the world around you. It doesn't work. We're not the boss of the universe. So the only thing you can do is watch how you react to it and try to control your own thoughts and not let your own mind spiral out of control, which is easier said than done. But a good way to do that, and I know this is so overused and thrown around that it sounds cliche, but mindfulness, that whole idea of just being right here, right now, in this moment. So instead of projecting into the future or going back and ruminating about the past, you can say to yourself, in this moment, I'm okay. Things are okay. Nobody's attacking me. The world isn't ending. The house isn't on fire, hopefully. And I can get through this moment. And if you can stack all those moments one on top of another, you realize that you're going to be okay, likely. It's when you start to project into the future and play the games of what if, that things get a little hectic. So stress, yeah. Managing stress is a big one, but I think it's a little backwards to try to start managing diet and meal prepping and getting to the gym if you're completely overwhelmed and stressed out. It's helpful to break things down into little manageable steps, like what can I do right now? Usually simple is better, even when it comes to diet. If you try to overhaul everything all at once, you're going to change the way you eat, you're going to start prepping every single meal, you're going to join a gym and go every single day. Chances are that's not going to last. That creates a huge amount of stress, and it's placing demands on you that you probably don't have the resources to handle, because if you did, you'd be doing those things already. So you got to be a little patient with yourself and maybe change one thing at a time. Even though I know we want instant results. So we want to do everything at once and make it happen faster. Like, I want this now. But it doesn't happen that way. Getting your body back to where you want it to be is a process. It takes time. You just have to, just like we stack to the days on top of each other, or the moments on top of each other, when it comes to managing stress. You know, you get through this moment and you get through that moment, you get through the next moment. Do the same thing with the days. So you follow your diet for one day at a time, just this day. And if this day doesn't work out, tomorrow's a clean slate. You don't ruminate about how things went wrong yesterday. You just start fresh with this day. And you get through each meal, one meal at a time. And you make one choice at a time. Everything just one step at a time. It sounds so basic and really so boring. And to be honest, it really is boring. I mean, bodybuilding is probably the most boring sport there is. It looks exciting when you see people up on the stage and they're super lean and they're in their sparkly suits and, you know, there's a crowd but that's literally like a couple minutes. And the rest of the year, all the prep that goes into that is just boring. That's why you don't see it really much on social media. You don't see the boring part. You don't see the meal prep. You don't see somebody walking past the candy dish at work and not taking a piece, because that's not very exciting. But those are the little choices that you just have to do over and over. And there's no shortcuts. There are really no shortcuts. Now, there are tools that people use. There are plenty of tools when it comes to fat loss, when it comes to appetite control. And people have all different supplements and things that they use, but those don't take the place of the basics. The basics are the basics, and there's no way around them. I'm probably rambling now. I really started talking about managing stress, and that's what I wanted to leave it at. My point is, when you try to pile on all of these different parts of weight loss, fat loss, building muscle, and then you start adding in all these little tiny details that don't matter that much, you overwhelm yourself, you set yourself up for failure, you up your stress level, and that actually becomes self-defeating. So start simple. Just start simple. Get your diet in order. That's the best place to start. Clean up your diet. Get your diet dialed in. I can guarantee you it's probably not dialed in, or not dialed in as much as it could be. You get your diet dialed in, you manage your stress, you get your sleep under control, and you show up for your workouts and give it your all. That's the best place to start. And that's it for today. That's my first little installment here, and I've got lots more to talk about, but I figured that was a good place to start, and I can get into more specifics as time goes.